top, but then it'll be full-on, eyes down for the charge up to the peninsula.
Well, it's not going to be an easy end. It's been a pretty easy ride so far, and all of the team car managers in the team cars have been very happy with the way the race is going. They've had really a second unofficial rest day here. No pressure, no accidents, perfect conditions. But I have to say that they all are aware that the last 50 kilometres life changes, and they're very, very nervous now, as will be the peloton, Paul.
No, they will. I think once we've been through Dinan, we'll all of a sudden start to see how much more precarious it's going to be out on the peninsula, because we'll have the wind starting to come across the riders. Once they get to the northern part of the peninsula and they're coming along the sea towards Saint-Malo from Cancale, then they will pick up the tailwind. 2014 Yorkshire. Well, that's because the Tour de France and next year will be starting in Yorkshire in Great Britain.
I'm sure those people were Yorkshire supporters. They've come over to watch the Tour. Next year it goes to Yorkshire in the United Kingdom for the Grand Départ from Leeds. They'll pass through the beautiful cities of Yorkshire, York, Harrogate, all on the map, Sheffield, and then they'll have a stage down from Cambridge, which will take them right to Buckingham Palace. A sensational start, the Grand Départ of the Tour de France, 3 days in the United Kingdom.
Thinking about it, Phil, that will probably be your shortest drive to the start of a Tour de France.
Yes, it probably will, actually. I hadn't thought about it. It's a lot shorter than driving to Corsica from London, which I did. Getting on the boat, of course, at Marseille. It's a bit of a wet journey after that.
The city of Dinan, just in the background there, you can just see perched on the top of the hill. And just over to the right-hand side of the riders, you can get a chance to see the castle of Léon, which was built around the year 1000 AD.
Ah, the King of England put it under siege in 1168.
The Amgen Tour of California this year. He leapt out of the pack and surprised all of the sprinters on that occasion. And he also defended his national time trial championships in the month of June, just before the start of the Tour.
Well, that's a heck of an effort for 1 point, but of course he also gets the cash prize as well for being over the top. So it was well worth it for him.
But now they've got to get themselves organised and try and pull him back into the fold.
One point for Vestre, nothing for everybody else, but the crowd paying due homage to the passage of the 100th Tour de France.
Well, the reason Vestre has done this, Phil, initially he jumped out of that pack to make them think that he was just going for the King of the Mountains point. But he's now realised that the pressure and the power has disappeared from the breakaway, and he's actually trying to make the lone move and maybe outfox the sprinters on the run in towards the finish. And they've not got themselves organised to chase him.
In fact, Mate is trying to explain it to the other two riders back there. He is the national time trial champion of Holland. So if he gets going on his own, then he could do a great ride tomorrow in the time trial. It has not worked.
Well, there's a chance here to look down on the town of Dinan. Originally found around about 1000 AD, mainly built on the top of this hill, perched up there. It was, in fact, half of Dinan was bought in 1283 by the Duke of Brittany, Jean Leroux. It was during this period that the present ramparts were built, and the ramparts cover 2.6 kilometers. And again, you see the typical Breton roofs, slate roofs in this area. Not too far away from the River Rance. In fact, the River Rance is navigable from just below Dinan right the way up to the ocean. It was boosted in the 18th century, the trade here, by the numerous weavers who settled. And they made many of the canvases which are used for the ship's sails. Then sent up to Saint-Malo via the River Rance.
Well, you're still Foyninger, who's setting the pace. There we are.
Chance to see the river. This is the river that was used as a navigational way to get all the way up to Saint-Malo, and it is most of the time navigable by barges.
As you can see, it's tidal, so it comes and goes as it runs out of the channel, which is the main bulk of water that separates the British Isles from France. It didn't stop all the spectators coming over today, that's for sure. There are many, many British people here today.
Well, It's going to be a very important sprint for these sprinters. There are not that many days left for them this afternoon. It's also, Phil, I'd have to say, extremely important for Vacansoleil to try and get themselves a victory as well, because bear in mind, down towards the end of this season, they don't yet have a sponsor for the 2014 year.
It was a planned withdrawal. Thank the team, saying they got hit all of their targets, but that was why they came into sponsoring the sport, and so they'll move on. But the riders themselves looking for new contracts. Just sat at the back here is Vestre in the leading group, as well as we continue to see the peloton of the Tour de France. The calm before the storm, without a doubt. Now they're still going into the headwind. These boys have led the way. Two Frenchmen in here, but the one front left in the green jersey, Julien Simon, he's the local rider, and he's been cheered all the way. That's where the time trial is based tomorrow, out at Mont de Saint-Michel, and it will be only the second time the race has gone there throughout its history.
Yeah, it was a big bunch sprint last time, and the winner on that occasion was Johan Museo, if my memory serves me correctly. But this is regarded one of thank you, Phil. This is one of the great monuments of France, and it really is a magical backdrop that we will have tomorrow for the individual time trial. 33 kilometers, the individual time trial, and it's the day when the men who want to win this bike race overall have to come out and show how good they are against the clock individually. For me, it will be interesting to see what the relationship is going to be between Chris Froome and Alberto Contador.
Absolutely, and I hope the tide stays out for 4 more hours, because our hotel is on the island tonight, and it's linked by a causeway. But what a unique place it is. It's the 3rd most visited place for tourists in France, behind the Palace of Versailles and, of course, Paris itself, which is the Eiffel Tower in that case. And so I hope they're cleaning out my room as we speak. But we're panning around at the causeway here, which is where the time trial will be tomorrow. It's going to be a great time trial. Very few time trials this year in the Tour de France. This is why it does favour the climbers in this 100th edition. But this one is a flat one, and the only flat one, because the next...
There as well. And there we get a chance to see the beautiful bay of Mont Saint-Michel. So this is what we're looking at. Way over there in the distance is the bay. He was on the wall, and we're going to get caught. He just wasn't quite sure when.
Well, the Emerald Coast has never looked more beautiful as the riders head for home now.
So fighting to stay near the front. That's Andy Schleck just in front of the yellow jersey. Got teammates all alongside him as we head now down towards the Emerald Coast and start to make our way a little bit closer down towards lining up for the finish. This is the point of Gruon, a rocky wild spike to the northernmost tip of the peninsula outside of Concale. Just looking at the lighthouse there.
The tide is low right now. Flanked by 3 towers, that castle, a keep and surrounding walls. It was built in 1026. The King of England occupied it until in 1207. Now the peloton speeds by, and they want to glance to the beautiful coastline scenery, the Emerald Coast today as they race now. The wind is going to say as much as the riders will in this year's Tour de France for this particular sector. It's a very, very strange finish into the finishing line with a little kick just before we come to the line. And David Miller riding dead centre here for the American garment shop. Ian Stannard on the right, guiding a British leader of the Tour de France. How situations have changed in 100 years of editions of this race, Paul. Now we talk about British names at the front. Flying along now under the control of Scotland's David Miller, heading towards the finish here. Now we just go inland a little bit, but basically we hug the coast. In the middle of the pack at the moment, but in the first 20 riders, which is where he wants to be. As we look across to the beautiful town of Saint-Malo, this is where it will all happen today now, as we close in on it. We're right round